Chapter 1. Pain. Yiqing Luo felt a sharp pain all over her body, as if thousands of sharp blades were slicing her body. Especially where her heart was, it felt like there was a ball of fire burning in her body, wantonly burning her everything. Yiqing Luo wanted to reach out and rub her eyebrows, but found that her whole body was weak and she couldn't even move her fingers. An indistinct voice drifted into his ears. Fourth young master, is it really okay to do this? Seventh miss is the crown prince's fiancée, If we do this, won't we make the crown prince wear a green hat, will we? What are you afraid of? A loud voice interrupted that person's words. Useless fellow. How could the crown prince take a fancy to this waste? If it wasn't for the Three Springs sect's young matriarch title, the crown prince would have kicked her out long ago. Fourth young master, you mean? The little waste was personally sent over by fourth Miss Yi. That bowl of medicine was also personally fed by her, the crown prince. May also know about it. Damn it. What the hell was this situation? Yiqing Luo frowned and tried hard to open her heavy eyelids. The moment she opened her eyes, she was blinded by the extremely dazzling light that stung her eyelids. Something seemed to explode in her brain like a volcano eruption. Unfamiliar scenes, like a flashing lantern, kept revolving in her mind. Once the colorful scenes passed, those scenes, like forcibly inserted memories, quickly overlapped in her mind, and then gradually calmed down. After receiving these memories, Yiqing Luo opened her eyes again. This time, her eyes adapted to the flickering candlelight in the room. The lights were bright. The luxurious and exquisite room had a rather ancient feel. The white gauze fluttered in the wind. Four luminous pearls stood in the four corners of the room, emitting a sparkling light. The worst part was that she was now lying on a round wooden table with her limbs spread out. Her body, which she was so proud of, had turned into a slender and delicate girl's body, and she was only wearing a white robe. Damn! She was lying on the table as food, waiting for others to eat her up. Damn it, didn't she just jump off the plane and transfer her soul into this little kid's body? Moreover, he had just transmigrated and he was already in such a miserable state. How could he still have fun? Yiqing Luo wanted to move but she couldn't muster any strength. The two people outside the door had just said that she had been drugged. Moreover, the person who had drugged her was the fourth sister of this body. She had personally sent her here to be defiled. Yiqing Luo speedily searched through her memories for the memories she needed. The person outside the door was the fourth young master of the Yuqi family, one of the four great profound families, Yuqiya. This person was dissolute by nature, idling around, and was a good-for-nothing young master. Sending her in front of Yuqiya was basically sending a sheep into a wolf's mouth. Fourth sister? And that so-called fiancé? Ha! Just you wait. Yiqing Luo narrowed her sharp eyes, suppressing the pain and numbness from her body, trying hard to control her four limbs. Creak. The door creaked, and Yuqiya walked in. From the sound of footsteps, there were at least 5 people. Little trash, Big Brother is going to love you right now. Yuqiya walked to the side of the table and directly reached out his hand to pull the white gown on her body. Yiqing Luo's icy cold gaze turned sharp as she spoke in a hoarse voice, Scram. Chapter 2. Dead fish? Yiqing Luo spat. Just as Yuqiya's hand tugged on her robe. Yiqing Luo suddenly flipped over and staggered up from the table. Her leg flew up and kicked Yuqiya's chest. She used all the strength in her body for this kick. Yuqiya didn't expect Yiqing Luo to have the strength to retaliate. He was kicked and directly flew out, smashing heavily against the wall. A mouthful of blood spurted out. Yiqing Luo wasn't any better, her whole body was still stiff and numb, unable to control her limbs freely. Every movement involved her internal organs, sending waves of throbbing pain. She took a deep breath and fiercely clenched her teeth, enduring the pain, tying the white robe on her body properly. Her incomparably painful heart suddenly felt a burst of heat, a warm current instantly spread out. It was only for a moment, followed closely by an overwhelming pain that corroded her. Yiqing Luo cried out in pain, her knees softened, half kneeling on the round table, her stiff arm tightly pressed against her heart. Damn it! What the hell was going on? What the hell was going on with this broken body? He was so weak that he could be easily knocked down with just a finger. She was indeed the Yi family's waste seventh young miss, a natural waste. But, now it was her, the dignified 21st century's hidden family's patriarch, who replaced this body. Even if it was a waste body, she could still turn the situation around. Little slut. How dare you hit this young master? Yuchiya rolled on the ground, clutching his chest and vomiting blood. TSK, Yuchiya actually didn't die? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, enduring the pain, sweat trickled down her forehead, sticking to her curly eyelashes. If it was in the 21st century, this kick of hers would definitely take Yuchiya's life. Hold her down. Cough cough, you bunch of good-for-nothings. Hold her down for me. Yuchiya roared in anger, every roar was accompanied by a burst of hurried coughing. Little slut, this young master has 100 ways to make you beg for death. Cough cough cough. The four followers exchanged glances and surrounded Yiqing Luo from four directions at the same time. Earlier when Yiqing Luo had sent Yuchiya flying with that kick, the four followers had seen it with their own eyes. Now that they were closing in, they also harbored some thoughts of probing. Step by step, they slowly approached. Yiqing Luo raised her numb arm and fiercely wiped away her sweaty eyes as she looked at the four approaching people with vigilance. These four people were said to be attendants, but in reality, they were Yuchiya's personal bodyguards. Each and every one of them was tall and sturdy, a full head taller than her. You're just a good-for-nothing from the Yi clan. Do you really think that you're the honorable young lord? How dare you disobey this young master? Are you still hoping that the crown prince will come and save you? Yuchiya saw Yiqing Luo half kneeling on the round table without the slightest trace of fear on her face. He immediately reached out to wipe off the blood on his face and glared at her while gnashing his teeth in anger. Stop dreaming. His Highness the Crown Prince doesn't like you at all. Yiqing Luo's sharp gaze shot straight at Yuchiya as she said word by word, let me go, otherwise, all of you will die. Ha ha ha. Yi clan's little good-for-nothing said to let us die, ha ha, cough cough, ha. Yuchiya coughed as he laughed, his mouth full of blood. A good-for-nothing whose profound heart jade was dug out. What ability do you have to let this young master die? Yuchiya raised his hand, overflowing with viciousness. This young master will let you see, today, whether you die or this young master dies. Chapter 3. Yiqing Luo quickly retreated and was about to roll off the round table. Suddenly, she saw, these four attendants' bodies emit a yellow light. The weak light wasn't dazzling. But Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly tightened at this moment. It was as if an ice-cold hand was tightly clutching her heart, unceasingly tightening. Compared to her previous pain, it was 1,000 times more painful. Her body went limp and she rolled off the round table. Ruthlessly whip her for this young master. Once he saw Yiqing Luo fall to the ground, Yuchiya sneered cruelly, quickly bring another bowl of medicine for this young master and pour it on this little waste until she can't move. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Still want to pour medicine on this old lady? Pay. Strong willpower made her suppress the sharp pain coming from her heart. Yiqing Luo aimed at the attendants who bent over to pull her, clamped her legs together and immediately did a back somersault, flinging that attendant towards the window at the side. Boom, that attendant's body directly fell out of the window. Yiqing Luo leaped at the same time and followed closely behind. She lifted her foot and heavily stomped on the attendant's chest. After a series of actions, this weak and powerless body that had long been drugged became even more powerless. She slowly moved her leg and leaned against the wall. Her plain white little hand pressed in the direction of her upper chest and felt a sticky hand. Looking down, her chest was oozing drops of blood, staining her white gown with captivating red flowers. Ah, she. So much blood flowed from her heart. She couldn't have just resurrected and was about to face death again, right? Yuchiya said that her profound jade heart had been dug out, the overlapping memories quickly told her the profound jade heart's information. Profound jade heart, as the name implied, was a jade heart hidden in the depths of the heart used to condense profound chi. And the level of the jade heart determined a cultivator's cultivation talent. Of course, those who had a profound jade heart might not necessarily become a cultivator. Like her. Possessing an extremely talented profound jade heart that countless cultivators coveted, she still couldn't cultivate profound chi. Damn it, the profound jade heart had been dug out from her heart, no wonder the blood kept flowing. This old lady is dying of pain. Who the fuck was so deranged as to dig out her profound jade heart? If she knew who it was, she would torture that bastard to the point that he wished he was dead. The little trash is in the next room. Chase after her, don't let her escape. Uchiya roared. He absolutely could not let Yiqing Luo escape, otherwise he and fourth Miss Yu would absolutely not be able to bear the consequences. Yiqing Luo's eardrums shook and due to excessive blood loss, her vision became blurry. She fiercely gritted her teeth and tightened her fingers, pressing on her wound. The intense pain caused her to regain consciousness. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes, her vision swept past the other three followers who had rushed up, and finally fixed on Uchiya. Blood seeped out of her pale lips, adding a bit of enchanting charm to her exquisite and beautiful face that was as pale as paper. The tiny figure was so weak that it seemed as if he would fall to the ground in the next second. But at this moment, her entire person burst forth with a powerful and piercingly cold aura. She stepped on the body of the fainted follower beside her leg. Her messy long hair danced wildly, and that pair of murderous eyes refracted a piercingly cold and dense killing intent. If you dare to touch me today, even if you go to heaven or hell, as long as I, Yiqing Luo, don't die, I will definitely dismember your body into 10,000 pieces. Grind your bones and scatter your ashes. Yiqing Luo's voice was powerful and resonant, as if it was wrapped in a thick layer of floating ice. Chapter 4. Shards splashed and the smell of wine spread in the room. The attendants who had walked to the door suddenly stopped. Even Uchiya, who was clutching his chest as he staggered to catch up, also showed fear in his eyes. Yiqing Luo frowned and expressed doubt towards their reaction. Even if she used her toes to think, she knew that the source of these people's fear was absolutely not because of her. Very quickly, she reacted. Her fingers almost subconsciously pinched a shard of the wine jar. Her figure with lightning speed, turned around and pressed the shard against the neck of the person behind her. Don't move. Yiqing Luo lowered her voice and shouted coldly. Even with her strong perception, she actually didn't detect the existence of a third person in this room. If it wasn't for Uchiya's line of sight, she probably wouldn't have known that there was someone behind her. Pfft, a light laugh overflowed from this person's mouth. That laughter, clear and pleasant to listen to, was extremely lazy. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes slightly narrowed. Under this laughter, a layer of goosebumps actually appeared all over her body. The person who was pressed against her neck was a man dressed in a luxurious purple robe. His black hair casually scattered over his shoulders, and there were a few strands, scattered on the back of Yiqing Luo's hand. The corners of the man's mouth raised into a smile. That face had a magnificent, androgynous look. The outline was very deep. Especially that pair of evil charming eyes, once met, would fall into the peach blossom trap that he created, sink for him, go crazy for him. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly jumped, a wave of ominous premonition welled up. Intuition told her, this man was not to be trifled with. What made Yiqing Luo confirm her intuition was the reaction of Uchiya and the others. When she used the shard to press against this evil charming man, Uchiya and the others' eyes were obviously filled with disbelief, trembling with fear. Yiqing Luo? Three Springs sexy family? The man murmured softly, his evil charming peach blossom eyes reflected a charming light. Yiqing Luo frowned, her fingertips pinched the shard tightly, closer to his neck. Shut up. Already at this point, even if this man was the emperor, she still had to continue to kidnap him. Since Uchiya and the others were afraid of this man, for now, she could only choose to use him as a hostage. Leave this place first. The man slightly narrowed his eyes, rippling a hint of a meaningful smile. Lord Dizun. Yuchi knelt down in fright. The followers behind him also knelt on the ground. We didn't do it on purpose. We didn't do it on purpose to disturb His Majesty's peace. Dizun. Dmo Xian. In Yiqing Luo's memory, she had heard of his name. He was the man who was revered as a god by the entire mainland. She had indeed captured an incredible person as a hostage. Dmo Xian's lips curled upward slightly as his eyes shimmered. He sensed that after Yiqing Luo heard his name, she actually had no intention of letting go, and the smile in his eyes grew even deeper. He smirked and said in a deep voice, "Beg me and I'll save you." How about that? Yiqing Luo snorted coldly as the broken shard in her hand slashed his white jade neck without any hesitation. A drop of fresh blood followed the broken pieces and fell onto her palm, mixing with the sticky blood on her hand. Little thing, you're poisoned. Dmo Xian didn't have the slightest awareness of being a hostage, and there wasn't a trace of emotion on his face. He only stared fixedly at her chest, which was soaked in blood. Your profound heart jade was actually dug away, so pitiful. His tone was indifferent, and there was not the slightest hint of regret. Chapter 5. Little thing, your willpower is not bad, but in another half an hour, no matter how strong your willpower is, when the medicine enters the bone marrow, I'm afraid you won't be able to get up. Dmo Xian raised his brows. Begging me is the only way for you to survive. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curved slightly as she leaned in close to his face. In her pupils, that bewitching fox face was magnified. She smiled seductively. Between her lips and teeth, she enunciated clearly, "Before I die, it's not bad to bring the Overlord along with me." Begging? She, Yiqing Luo, had lived for 2 lifetimes and still didn't know how to write the word begging. Ha ha ha. Interesting little thing. A light laugh overflowed from Dmo Xian's throat, his chest heaving up and down. The moment his voice fell, Yiqing Luo only felt the wrist that was holding the fragment was suddenly held by someone, and immediately after, she felt the world spinning. She fell into a broad embrace. A fragrant sandalwood scent seeped into the nose. The man's long arm, tightly wrapped around Yiqing Luo's slender waist, firmly holding her in his arms. Yiqing Luo's blood dyed that luxurious purple robe red, but Dmo Xian didn't care much. However, she was only wearing a white robe. In this tug, the belt that was fastened loosened, the collar opened, revealing a piece of pure white skin. Yiqing Luo's face was covered with frost, shyly gritting her teeth. But her limbs were held in place by Dmo Xian. She couldn't struggle, and could only use a murderous gaze, ruthlessly cutting him. Let open me. Dmo Xian's gaze lightly swept over her open collar, immediately looked up, met with her fierce gaze, and smiled magnificently. This lord won't let go. What can you do to me? Damn, what happened to the person who was called as a god? This guy couldn't be an imposter, right? Did he need to be so shameless? Dmo Xian directly ignored Yiqing Luo's murderous gaze, as his slender fingers gathered her white robe bit by bit, as he spoke in a light and breezy tone. Don't worry, this lord has no interest in tiny things. You're the little thing. Your whole family are little things. How was she little? Although this body wasn't as hot as her previous life, at least it was still there. Moreover, this body was only 15 years old. Could it develop well? Dmo Xian shifted his line of sight and squinted at the few people who were kneeling on the ground shivering. He lazily raised his eyelids. Ah Feng. A gust of whirlwind suddenly blew and a black-robed youth appeared behind Dmo Xian, half kneeling on the ground as he cupped his hands respectfully. Sir Overlord. Dmo Xian held Yiqing Luo in his arms as they walked in. With a flip of his palm, a chair not too far away was swiftly shifted to his side. He sat down and hugged Yiqing Luo to sit on his lap. Then, he tapped the chair with his slender fingers. Almost at the same time, Ah Feng's hand reached for the long sword at his waist. His entire body released a powerful profound energy, and the few people kneeling at the door were all swept into the room. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted abruptly. She actually saw a red glow on Win's body. Different from the radiance of the followers at Yuchiya's side, this red light was extremely bewitching, extremely brilliant red. This feeling, could it be profound qi? Yiqing Luo forcefully blinked her eyes, and when she wanted to take a closer look, the pain in her heart that had been relieved with great difficulty, once again came tearing at her. So painful, just now when she saw the light emitted from the followers, she also felt this kind of unbearable pain. What exactly was going on? Chapter 6. Dmo Xian frowned slightly as he looked down at the person in his arms. Her complexion was almost pale, her slender eyebrows knitted into a ball, her little hand pressed on her chest, looking like she was in so much pain that she wanted to die. Dmo Xian's eyes lit up. He quickly moved his palm and placed it on the back of Yiqing Luo's hand, pressing on her chest. In that instant, he felt a fleeting burning sensation in his palm. It was felt from Yiqing Luo's heart. His hand reached out and immediately laughed out loud, ha ha ha. Didn't expect that this lord would encounter a rare genius in 1,000 years. At first, Dmo Xian let Yiqing Luo threaten him, just because he felt that this girl had a bit of spirit. In order to not let himself fall, he didn't even hesitate to pressure his own wound, using pain to maintain his consciousness. She could be so ruthless to herself. Little girl, seriously injured, could burst out with an imposing manner that made him look askance. That was absolutely not an aura that an ordinary girl could have. Especially that pair of biting cold eyes, bursting with killing intent, deeply touched him. This little girl was not an ordinary person. Unexpectedly, this girl was actually Wind. I'll leave it to you. Dmo Xian restrained the joy in his eyes. Yes. Wind replied in a low voice, walking straight towards Yuchiya and the rest. Dmo Xian touched the ring on his hand and a pill which was shining with white light appeared in his palm. Yuchiya and the rest could see at a glance that the shining pill was above 5th grade, it couldn't be bought even with money. They watched helplessly as Dmo Xian fed the 5th grade pill into Yiqing Luo's mouth without the slightest bit of heartache. The pill melted in her mouth. Yiqing Luo only felt an ice-cold chill flowing from her throat into her body, spreading through her limbs and bones. Wherever the chill went, the pain disappeared in an instant. After circulating through her limbs and bones, it flowed to her chest and wrapped around it. Dmo Xian saw Yiqing Luo's tightly knitted brows smoothened out, her breathing also returned to normal. He carried her and prepared to leave. Suddenly, a small white crane flew in from outside the window. Palm-sized, paper folded. That paper crane circled around Dmo Xian and slowly landed in his palm. In a blink of an eye, it turned into a piece of white paper. Dmo Xian swept a glance at the contents and his peach blossom eyes sparkled with a bewitching luster as his pupils deepened. What a coincidence, Dmo Xian sighed faintly as he gently stroked her silky hair. Little thing, although this lord wants to bring you away, but this lord has more urgent matters to settle. However, I have a new idea. His fingers lifted Yiqing Luo's lower jaw and that peerless face was magnified in her pupils. I'll give you a month's time to prove your strength and prove that I didn't misjudge you. Dmo Xian's voice was as light as a ghost as it seeped into their eardrums. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo felt an intense heat coming from her heart. It was Dmo Xian who pressed his hand on her chest. A fluorescent light flashed where his palm touched his chest. When Dmo Xian's palm moved away, Yiqing Luo clearly felt a breath of air flowing out from her body and sinking into her heart, forming into a palm-sized jade-shaped qi. This was the profound jade heart? Yiqing Luo's breathing stopped as she raised her eyes to look at Dmo Xian. What's going on? That guy didn't reply and took off an enchanting red jade ring from his finger, held her hand and put it on. Chapter 7. This ring is called the Profound Phoenix Ring. Dmo Xian pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms and whispered in her ear. You have to take care of it. Profound Phoenix Ring? Yiqing Luo looked down at the ring in her hand. The red ring was crystal clear without a trace of carvings. Looking closely, the ring was surrounded by a circle of red flames. It made her slender fingers look much fairer. You are my woman now that you have accepted this lord's ring. Dmo Xian chuckled as his 5 fingers locked onto Yiqing Luo's 2 hands, one big and one small. On the ring finger was the same type of ring. Damn it, did Dmo Xian know what it meant for a man to give a woman a ring? Who the hell is your woman? Yiqing Luo suddenly withdrew her hand and quickly slapped the man beside her. I, Yiqing Luo, do not belong to anyone. However, his palm struck empty air. Her fingertips only had enough time to touch a piece of silk. It was Dmo Xian's robe. She used a little strength and with a rip sound, a small piece of the torn robe fell into Yiqing Luo's hands. In front of her, there was no sign of the man in purple. Only the voice that traveled through the air from all directions announced that this man, who was like a legend, had truly appeared. He said, "Little thing, don't let me down." Yiqing Luo's sharp eyes looked around and sensed Dmo Xian's breath. Dmo Xian was no longer there. Even Ah Feng, who he brought along, was gone. In the entire room, there was only her and the 4 people who were kneeling on the ground. Yi, 7th Miss Yi, today's matter has nothing to do with me, it was your 4th sister who forced me to do it. Yuchiya's whole body was trembling non-stop after he escaped from the hands of the overlord. He didn't expect that the high and mighty overlord would actually take a fancy to this cheap girl. No matter how angry he was, he didn't dare to offend the woman that the overlord had taken a fancy to. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, the corners of her long and narrow eyes flashed a very shallow cold arc. Young Master Yuchi, how is this related to my 4th sister? She walked towards Yuchiya step by step, the sneer at the corner of her mouth becoming even more pronounced. It really wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was just following orders. For the sake of survival, Yuchiya was willing to spill any secret. You were kidnapped and brought here by 4th Miss Yi, and it was also 4th Miss Yi who drugged you. All these, when Yiqing Luo was awake, she had long heard it. She narrowed her eyes and asked in a low voice, what is her purpose? 4th Miss Yi did it to help her sister, eldest Miss Yi. 1st Miss Yi and His Highness the Crown Prince have long been in cahoots. But you are the young master of the 3 Springs sect. The monarch has long set the engagement between you and the Crown Prince, so. 4th Miss Yi came to me, wanting me to take away your innocence, so that you can legitimately dissolve the engagement between you and the Crown Prince. So, it was because of a man. Crown Prince? Fiancé? Yiqing Luo snorted coldly, her slender fingers subconsciously stroked the profound phoenix ring on her ring finger, her clear and charming eyes flashed a very enchanting cold light. Chapter 8. Her eyes turned cold as she pointed at the bowl of medicine on the table. The 4 of you, finished that bowl of medicine. That was the medicinal soup that Yuchiya had originally prepared to use on Yiqing Luo. Yuchiya turned his head to look at the attendants beside him and fiercely pushed them over. Hurry up and drink it. Whoever doesn't drink it, don't even think about living. Yuchiya's eyes widened in horror as he scrambled over to pick up the bowl of medicine and drank a big mouthful. The other 3 attendants also shared it and drank it down. Yiqing Luo watched them drink the bowl of medicine cleanly, and the enchanting cold glint in the corner of her eyes became even more moving. She didn't say a word and walked out of the room. Then she closed the door and locked it. That bowl of medicine wasn't poison but a kind of medicine to make women obedient. She let them taste the consequences of their own actions and try the medicine. Yiqing Luo didn't leave immediately and was thinking of going to her room to find a set of clothes to change into when a black shadow suddenly flitted in front of her eyes. There was no hostility and Yiqing Luo didn't panic. Focusing her eyes, she saw Wind half kneeling on the ground with both hands holding a set of red long dress. You. 7th Miss Yi, please change your clothes. Wind's voice was cold as he said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Why didn't he leave with Dmo Xian? Just as she was about to open her mouth to ask, Wind stuffed the red long dress into her hands and with a leap, disappeared into thin air. Damn, he was even colder than her. Did Dmo Xian send him to deliver her clothes? Yiqing Luo held onto the clothes as her figure speedily moved around the inn and found an empty room. The spirit pill that Dmo Xian fed her was effective in minutes. Now her body didn't have any injuries. Moreover, the profound heart jade piece in her heart was constantly transmitting her endless power. This was the profound heart jade that Dmo Xian made for her. Profound heart jade, could it also be made? Unable to understand, Yiqing Luo simply didn't think about these brain-burning things and took off the white robe that was stained with blood. After wiping off the bloodstains on her body, Yiqing Luo relied on her memory and this body's instinct to put on this complicated set of clothes. In the room, there was a bronze mirror. Yiqing Luo looked at the person in the mirror and couldn't help but click her tongue. Was she reincarnating or was she reincarnating? This face was exactly the same as her original face. Her facial features were exquisite and beautiful, with curved eyebrows and watery eyes. The corners of her eyes were long and narrow, forming a natural arc. She was exceptionally enchanting, adding a touch of charm to her pure face. There seemed to be something between his eyebrows. Yiqing Luo leaned closer to the bronze mirror and stretched out her hand to touch the space between her eyebrows. She could faintly see a red mark, like a small corner of a petal. However, after rubbing her forehead, she took a closer look. Her forehead was as white as snow and there was nothing there. Was she seeing things? Was she hallucinating? No. Why did she feel like her hallucinations were getting worse? Why did she also see a circle of pink patterns on her arm? This shape, it looked a bit like a cherry blossom. Yiqing Luo rubbed it with her hands, the pattern was still there. He rubbed his eyes, but the pattern was still there. I'm not hallucinating. Why didn't she remember that there was such a circle of birthmark on her body? As she rubbed, suddenly a tiny voice entered her ears. Little lass, stop rubbing, stop rubbing. The sudden voice made Yiqing Luo's eyes sink as a sharp glint flashed past her eyes. Who? She scanned her surroundings vigilantly, the murderous intent in her eyes was obvious. Little lass, don't look so ugly, relax, let's slowly communicate. That voice was very close, as if it was standing right in front of her. Chapter 9. Cough, 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 little girl, this old man is coming to see you. As the voice stopped, Yiqing Luo's wrist suddenly ignited with a burning sensation. The circle pattern on her wrist suddenly floated up. Yiqing Luo stared at the constantly rotating pattern on her wrist. A dazzling white light flashed in front of her eyes and she fell into the center of the pattern's vortex. When she opened her eyes again, there was fog in front of her and all she could see was a vast expanse of whiteness. Where was the inn she stayed in before? What the hell was this place? Little girl, I'm here. That voice came from behind her again. Yiqing Luo sharply turned her head back, only to see a human figure slowly appearing amidst the white mist. It was a white-haired old man dressed in a white robe. His silhouette could not be seen clearly in the mist that curled up in spirals. Who are you? Yiqing Luo stared at the old man vigilantly, ready to fight back at any time. Little girl, you're the one who summoned this old man, and you still ask who I am? The old man stroked his long white beard and replied with a smile. I summoned you? Yiqing Luo's head was full of question marks. The old man explained unhurriedly, little girl, this old man is the guardian of your Yi family's heirloom. Your blood awakened this old man, so isn't this the reason why you summoned this old man? Heirloom? Are you kidding me? Yiqing Luo's face was full of suspicion. Yi family's heirloom, that was something from the 21st century. It was because of this heirloom that she was forced to perish together with those evil old men. She had crossed over. Could it be that the heirloom had followed her into another world? The incantation on your wrist is the best proof. The old man took a step forward and before Yiqing Luo could react, he had already closed in on her. A circle of cold touch held her slender wrist. Yiqing Luo's heart was overwhelmed with shock and she took a step back. This old man's speed was so fast. If he really wanted to kill her, she would have no chance to fight back at all. Yiqing Luo's expression softened and was no longer vigilant. The incantation that the old man mentioned was the circle of cherry blossom pattern on her wrist. This is the Yi clan's heirloom, the Azure Dew bracelet. The old man's finger touched her wrist, and the circular pattern slowly floated. One by one, the petals formed a cherry bracelet. Oh my God, was this the thing that she had risked her life to dig out from the Yi family's ancestral grave? For this bracelet, he lost his life, F***CK. Could it be that her transmigration was caused by this stupid bracelet? Yiqing Luo's heart almost collapsed. After all, her modern life was so carefree. She could do whatever she wanted, and no one could control her. Unlike in this strange world, with her identity, no matter where she went, she would be the target of others' schemes. The Azure Dew bracelet has absorbed your blood and has already formed a blood contract with you. The old man released her hand. I am the guardian of the Azure Dew bracelet. From today onwards, I will pass down all the mysteries of the Azure Dew bracelet to you. The profound meaning of the Azure Dew bracelet? What the hell? Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and stared at the bracelet on her wrist. It turned into an incantation and sank into her skin. She thoughtfully stretched out her finger and brushed the circle of cherry blossom incantation, secretly thinking, in her previous life, those old men from the Yi family had been eyeing the heirloom for a long time. In order to obtain it, they did not hesitate to sacrifice their own lives. Chapter 10. Her Yi family's heirloom naturally belonged to her, Yiqing Luo. The Azure Dew bracelet is a legendary artifact left by the god race in Nirvana realm. It has 12 levels of purgatory. As long as you use your spiritual sense to enter the Azure Dew bracelet every night when you are asleep, you will be able to obtain an Azure Dew spell for every level you pass. Legendary grade? God race's artifact? Her family's heirloom was actually so awesome. One must know that in Nirvana realm, all the accessories were divided into 5 grades, from lowest to highest. They were common grade, white, ingenious, green, essence, blue, supreme, purple, legendary, gold, highest. High. Weight. Grade. God. Artifact. Artifact. Ah. If she could comprehend the profound meaning within, wouldn't she be heaven-defying? In this strange world, who would she be afraid of? Yiqing Luo decisively raised her eyes. Her long and enchanting eyes flashed with a trace of brilliance. I am just a waste, unable to cultivate profound qi, are you sure? I can become the owner of the Azure Dew bracelet? With this old man here, even if you are already a dead person, this old man can still bring you back from the dead and nurture you to become a worthy owner of the Azure Dew bracelet. The old man proudly raised his head. Pausing, his gaze swept over Yiqing Luo's body, revealing a meaningful smile. If you don't have the ability to surpass others, the Azure Dew bracelet won't choose you, nor will it absorb your blood. Only extraordinary people can obtain the Azure Dew bracelet's approval. Listening to the old man's confident words, Yiqing Luo's body seemed to have a surge of hot blood gradually boiling. The heart that had been calm for more than 10 years once again set off a whirlpool, huge waves rolling. The adventurer's heart began to awaken. Her pink lips, at this moment, hooked into a bloodthirsty and cold arc. All right, I accept the Azure Dew bracelet. From today onwards, I, Yiqing Luo, am the owner of the Azure Dew bracelet. Following her sonorous and powerful voice, Yiqing Luo only felt a wave of heat from her profound jade heart, quickly spreading throughout her limbs and bones. The glaring white light caused Yiqing Luo to subconsciously close her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she had already returned to her original room, still sitting in front of the bronze mirror. Yiqing Luo immediately raised her arm and looked at her wrist. Her heart trembled when she saw the cherry blossom spell on her wrist. Everything that happened just now wasn't a dream, she had really become the owner of the Azure Dew bracelet. Ha ha ha. The era that belongs to me, Yiqing Luo, is about to arrive. Those who once hurt me, humiliated me, and killed me, just wait for me to claim your life. Yiqing Luo sneered as she retracted her wrist. Her wide red sleeves covered her fair wrist. She got up and left the inn. Her top priority now was to return to the Yi family, lest her good eldest sister and fourth sister used this incident to make her unable to secure her position as the young sect master. On the way back to the Yi family, Yi Qing Luo went through the information about the other world once again in her mind. The Nirvana realm was a world where the strong were respected for cultivating Xian Qi. The Nirvana realm was divided into 4 parts: the East Continent, South Continent, West Continent, and North Continent. Every continent had its own sect, which was the leader of the continent. Rumor had it that the 4 major sects were used by the god race to control the peace of the Nirvana realm, allowing them to restrain each other. There were also rumors that these 4 major sects were actually the god race's guards, specially stationed in the 4 corners of the Nirvana realm, guarding the god race's god emperor's tomb. And she, Yi Qing Luo, was one of the 4 major sects, the young matriarch of the West Continent's 3 Springs sect. She possessed a supreme status, possessed an enviable profound jade heart, but was a wastrel who was unable to cultivate Xian Qi. Chapter 11. Following her memory, she found the way back to 3 Springs sect. 3 Springs sect wasn't far from this inn. Yi Qing Luo had just arrived at 3 Springs sect when she saw more than a dozen strong men rushing out of the main door. The leader had combed her hair delicately and wore a jade-colored brocade dress. Her facial features were beautiful and her eyes were filled with a complacent smile. This person was the 4th miss of the Yi family, Yi Qingling. Quick! Immediately follow this young miss to the Heavenly Fortune Inn. If you're any later, my poor 7th sister will meet with misfortune. Yi Qingling deliberately shouted at the top of her voice in an attempt to let the people outside the residence hear these words. The dozens of strong men shouted in unison, "Yes. We will definitely bring 7th Miss back safe and sound from the hands of the bad guys." Yi Qing Luo, who was standing at the corner, narrowed her eyes slightly when she heard this, and the corners of her mouth hooked up into an extremely cold arc. Her 4th sister was really smart. On the surface, she was worried about her sister and rushed to rescue her. In fact, she wanted to take this opportunity to spread the news of her losing her innocence to the entire 3 Springs sect. Look, the commoners around had already formed a few groups, pointing at the 3 Springs sect manor, discussing something in private. Yi Qing Luo's ears twitched and could clearly hear the voices within 100 meters. That useless young matriarch was caught by the bad guys? And was kidnapped to the inn? TSK, this 3 Springs sect is really unlucky. Young matriarch is a waste and there's no light in 3 Springs sect's future. Unexpectedly, there's such a scandal now. What scandal? Young matriarch is such a beauty and also a waste. What else could happen if she was brought to the inn by the bad guys? All kinds of discussions went into Yi Qing Luo's ears. She dug her ears and didn't listen anymore. She straightened her clothes and used her fingertips to pick up her long hair that fell on her shoulders and quickly tied up a simple hair bun. When the dozens of strong men passed by her and went straight to Heavenly Fortune Inn, Yi Qing Luo's clear voice sounded leisurely. "4th sister, what are you going to do with so many followers?" Upon hearing this voice, the imposing group of people suddenly stopped in their tracks. Yi Qingling followed the sound and pushed the burly man aside. Sure enough, at the corner, she saw Yi Qing Luo. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Was this really her cowardly and useless 7th younger sister? The lady before him was wearing a long red dress that resembled a blossoming rose. It was so enchanting that her snow-white skin looked even fairer. A few strands of hair fell from her simple temples. As she slowly walked over, they scattered under the blazing sun, adding a layer of afterglow to her exquisite and beautiful face. There was a kind of captivating charm on the woman. Yi Qingling couldn't move her eyes away at all. She believed that everyone had the same feeling. How could this be the charm that trash could emit? 4th sister, it's only been 4 hours since we last met. Could it be that you don't recognize me anymore? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a mischievous smile. Her bright eyes flashed an enchanting arc. This voice, Yi Qingling shuddered and stared at her incredulously. You are. Yi Qingling had always known that Yi Qing Luo was beautiful. But the former Yi Qing Luo, although beautiful, had no spirituality and was simply a dead thing. Especially that kind of timid and cowardly character, which made her beauty lose its luster. But today. Chapter 12. Is fourth sister so excited to see your sister? Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly as she approached Yi Qing Ling with light steps. Yi Qing Ling hurriedly retreated. Aren't you at the Heavenly Fortune Inn? Why am I at the inn? Yi Qing Luo pretended to be puzzled. 4 hours ago, didn't fourth sister ask Luo, to keep watch for you so that you can meet the Yuqi family's fourth young master? What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Qing Ling's pupils suddenly widened as she reached out to grab Yi Qing Luo's collar. When did I have a private meeting with Yuqi? You little waste, now you've learned to speak without thinking. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes flashed. Fourth sister went back to the Yi family without telling me. I've been keeping watch for you and fourth sister still treats me like this. Her voice was not high, but it was definitely not low either. The advantage of proper control was to ensure that the people around could hear it clearly. Yi Qing Luo's slender hand hooked onto Yi Qing Ling's hand and gently brushed it away. She gathered her clothes and smiled. Fourth sister, I've kept watch for you for 4 hours, I'm tired, I'll go back first. After that, Yi Qing Luo walked straight to the Three Springs sect's main residence. The surrounding people would choose to believe Yi Qing Luo's words when they saw this situation. After all, look at Yi Qing Luo from head to toe. Which part of her looked like she had been kidnapped to the inn? Her clothes were neat and tidy, her hair was neat and tidy. On the contrary, it was Yi Qing Ling who flew into a rage out of humiliation. You're not allowed to leave. Yi Qing Ling was furious. Her whole face flushed red as she waved her hand and a long blue sword appeared in her hand. She leaped and stabbed towards Yi Qing Luo's back. Yi Qing Luo's body had recovered and her powerful perception from her past life seemed to have fused with this body. She keenly felt the murderous intent behind her. Just before the long sword stabbed, Yi Qing Luo's body rolled sideways in an extremely strange posture and avoided the long sword. Little waste. How dare you dodge? Yi Qing Ling's long sword slashed across the sky and a blue sword wave surged towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Fourth elder sister, are you stupid? You're going to kill me, how can I not dodge? Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly. Her toes tapped lightly on the ground and her figure swiftly retreated more than 10 steps. He dodged the sword wave without missing it by a hair. She flashed a provocative smile at Yi Qing Ling, patted her butt and stepped into the Three Springs sect. Yi Qing Ling's face was drained of all light and her fingers that were holding the long sword had turned pale and green. Stop her. Stop that little waste for this miss. Yi Qing Ling's delicate facial features twisted and looked extremely terrifying. Little waste. Who allowed you to enter the mansion? Let me tell you, His Highness the Crown Prince is in the front hall. He wants to break off the engagement with you. A few strong men immediately rushed forward and blocked in front of Yi Qing Luo, preventing her from entering the manor. Hearing Yi Qing Ling's words, Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly. Her slender eyebrows were slightly knitted as a pair of clear and charming eyes looked towards Yi Qing Ling. Your Royal Highness? Yes. Haven't you been pestering His Royal Highness the whole time? Let me tell you, he came to Three Springs sect today to break off the engagement with you. No matter what, I will not let you enter this door. Chapter 13. Break off the engagement? What a coincidence. She had just suffered from Yi Qing Ling's evil scheme and her chastity was almost ruined. The Crown Prince came to Three Springs Manor to break off the engagement in the next second. She really didn't believe that the Crown Prince had nothing to do with her being kidnapped to Heavenly Fortune Inn. No wonder Yi Qing Ling brought a group of people to Heavenly Fortune Inn to look for her with great fanfare. Wasn't it just to catch the adulterer in bed and conveniently break off the engagement? In order to break off the engagement in a fair and square manner, a couple of deliberate schemes were quite strenuous. Break off the engagement just in time. The Crown Prince? The monarch bestowed marriage? Haha. Did she care? If she wanted to break off the engagement, she had to be the one who had the right. Move aside. Yiqing Luo glanced at the burly men in front of her and squinted her eyes. You are the Three Springs sex dogs. How dare you block my way? Are you looking down on Three Springs Manor? The burly men's expressions suddenly changed as they looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Yes, even if Yiqing Luo was a waste, no matter how unfavored she was still the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. Regardless of whether Yiqing Luo could become the matriarch of Three Springs sect in the future, but Yiqing Luo had been a waste for more than 10 years and the matriarch still hadn't revoked her young matriarch status. At that moment, the burly men couldn't help but move aside to form a path. You guys get this clear for me. Who is your master? How could Yiqing Ling allow Yiqing Luo to enter the manor so arrogantly? If she let this waste disrupt her eldest sister's chances of becoming the crown prince's wife, how could she rely on her eldest sister to marry into the royal family? That's right. She couldn't let this waste succeed. Yiqing Ling's figure flashed and with a long sword in her hand, she stood in front of Yiqing Luo. I don't believe that I can't stop a waste like you. As soon as her voice fell, Yiqing Ling's body began to condense into a deep yellow light. She threw the long sword in her hand into the air. 2 fingers came together to control the long sword, rolling up a strong sword momentum and slashed down. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed, her toes immediately tapped the ground lightly and retreated quickly out of the manor. The next second, a loud bang was heard and the main door of the Three Springs sect was tightly shut under the guidance of Yiqing Ling's profound qi. Yiqing Ling raised her long arm and the long sword landed firmly in her palm. The commoners who were watching from all directions were amazed. No wonder she's the daughter of the Three Springs sect. Her innate talent is too strong. Is there a Xian practitioner who can determine if 4th Miss Ye's Xian rank has already reached Yellow Xian 5th grade or above? That's not all. Judging by the fluctuation of his qi, he is at least at the 9th grade. My God. 9th stage. The Three Springs sect is truly worthy of being the #1 sect in the Western continent. Humph. Now you know how powerful I am. Yiqing Ling heard it and proudly raised her chin with one arm akimbo, pointing her sword at Yiqing Luo. Scared? If you're afraid, then kneel down and kowtow to me. If I'm satisfied, I might be lenient and spare you. Listening to Yiqing Ling's maniacal laughter, Yiqing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes as her gaze roamed around her body. This time, she saw it very clearly. Yiqing Ling's heart was glowing with a very strong dark yellow light. It was a light that was close to orange. From the memory of the original owner of this body, this almost orange light should belong to the Yellow Xian 9th grade and was about to advance to the Mystic Xian stage. In the Nirvana realms, martial arts was respected and the profound Qi level determined the status. And this profound Qi level was divided into 4 ordinary levels: Yellow, Profound, Earth and Heaven. Each level was divided into 9 grades. For every grade, a corresponding 5-pointed star would appear under the feet of the cultivator. Chapter 14. At Yiqing Ling's age, to be able to reach the Yellow Profound 9th grade was indeed considered as a strong person in the eyes of ordinary people. But Yiqing Ling was very unlucky. Today, she was up against Yiqing Luo, who had already changed her soul. The smile on Yiqing Luo's lips did not diminish as she pressed her slender white hand on the position of her heart. What her palm touched was a burst of scorching heat. It was not an illusion. In terms of profound grade, she who had not cultivated yet was inferior to Yiqing Ling. But she could clearly see the level of Yiqing Ling's profound jade heart and could clearly see the 9 stars pattern under her feet. This was the same light that she saw on Yuchiya's followers at the Heavenly Fortune Inn. At that time, she had lost too much blood and her consciousness was eroded by the poison. She did not have time to take a closer look and her heart hurt so much that she almost fainted. The temporary profound jade heart that Dmo Xian created in her body was still quite useful and allowed her to identify the opponent's profound grade. Little waste. How dare you laugh at me? Yi Qingling had been waiting for Yi Qingluo to shake her tail in fear and beg for her forgiveness. She did not expect that after waiting for a long time, Yi Qingluo gave a low sneer instead. Little emotions immediately surged up. Yi Qingling clenched her long sword tightly, a strong profound chi condensed on her long sword. The sword waves surged like raging waves, pressing down from the sky and covering the earth. A strong airflow revolved around Yi Qingling's body, rolling up a strong wind and blowing up the dust on the ground. The onlookers and a few ordinary people were thrown to the ground by this strong wind. There were screams of terror and cheers of amazement. Oh my God, if this sword technique hit Yi Qingluo, could she still survive? This young matriarch did not know how to appreciate favors and forgot her own status as a waste to provoke the fourth miss of the Yi family. She deserved it. Most of them had the mentality of watching a show. After all, in a large family, the drama of sisters killing each other was not often performed. The strong wind blew and the profound chi wrapped around Yi Qingluo. Her red dress bloomed like petals in the wind. Yi Qingling's move had gathered all the profound chi in her body, intending to take Yi Qingluo's life in one move. Yi Qingluo totally didn't hide, nor did she evade. She stood at her original spot, with a cold smile on her face as she looked at the sword wave which was pressing down on her. Just as the sword wave approached, the commoners covered their eyes and screamed. At that critical moment, Yi Qingluo shifted her feet slightly and somersaulted in the air, landing in front of Yi Qingling in an instant. She curled her lips into a charming smile. Yi Qingling's mouth was agape, a horrified expression was reflected in Yi Qingluo's pupils. Immediately, Yi Qingluo clenched her fists and threw a seemingly casual punch straight at Yi Qingling's abdomen. A loud bang was heard and Yi Qingling's body was sent flying, crashing into the main door of the sex residence. Along with the door, it crashed to the ground. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yi Qingling's mouth. She clutched her stomach in pain and had no strength to stand up. The common people were stunned, and gasps sounded one after another. Were they seeing things? Were they dreaming? Three Springs sex waste young matriarch actually avoided the sword technique of a yellow profound 9th grade cultivator? Not only did she avoid it, she even counterattacked. It was just a punch, a light punch. Yi Qingluo glanced coldly at Yi Qingling and sneered. Suddenly, a burst of footsteps was heard from inside the residence. Chapter 15. Inside the Three Springs sect, a middle-aged man dressed in a navy blue robe slowly walked in. His facial features were regular and his brows were tightly knitted. He was very handsome and his whole person looked dignified. This person was the patriarch of the Three Springs sect, Yi Tianquang. Father, save me. Yi Qingling, who was lying on the ground groaning in pain, saw her savior and stretched out her little hand to grab Yi Tianquang. Yi Tianquang's face darkened and his sharp eyes glanced at the entourage behind him. The attendants understood and immediately stepped forward. One on the left and one on the right, they carried Yi Qingling into the mansion. Fourth sister. What's going on? Suddenly, a scream rang out. A woman in a dark red dress walked out of the mansion. Her hair was combed in a complicated way, and her footsteps were accompanied by a clanging sound. Her gentle face looked even more elegant and noble. Her line of sight fell on Yi Qingling, who was being carried away by the entourage. Father, what happened to fourth sister? Why did she suffer such a serious injury? She walked over quickly. I also want to ask what's going on. Yi Tianquang's cold and sharp eyes shot towards Yi Qingluo. But when his eyes met Yi Qingluo, a touch of surprise was fleeting. He was surprised by the change in her. Very quickly, he restrained all his emotions and shouted with a cold look in his eyes, "Evil girl! Get over here!" Yi Qingluo crossed her arms over her chest and looked like she was watching a show. She didn't pay any attention to Yi Tianquang's shout. In her memory, Yi Tianquang was extremely disgusted with her. It could be said that Yi Qingluo's miserable days were caused by Yi Tianquang. Yiqing Luo didn't have a good impression of a father who didn't treat her like a daughter. In any case, she had always been alone. Evil girl. Seeing Yiqing Luo just looking at him with a mocking smile, Yi Tianquang's face darkened and condensed a profound qi into his palm and struck towards Yiqing Luo. This palm strike was enough to make the former Yiqing Luo die a violent death. Yiqing Luo moved her feet and changed her position in a flash to avoid the palm strike. Her eyes narrowed and a bloodthirsty cold light dyed her eyes red. My father, if I am an evil girl, then what are you? Everyone was stunned. This was Yiqing Luo? That cowardly little trash who didn't even dare to say a word actually had such a frightening expression. When that pair of enchanting eyes swept past him, it was as if he had fallen into an extremely cold place. Why don't you take a look at your own status, you? How dare you lay a hand on Ling, Following closely behind was the second madam of the Yi family, who was also Yiqing Jian and Yiqing Ling's mother. The moment she saw Yiqing Ling covered in blood and fainted while being carried away by the entourage, she was so angry that she trembled all over and couldn't wait to rush up and tear Yiqing Luo into pieces. You want to talk about identity with me? Fine, I'll talk to you about my identity. She's just a lowly concubine's daughter, yet she dares to join hands with servants and attempt to offend and humiliate the first wife's daughter in public. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, revealing an enchanting cold smile. As the young master of the Three Springs sect, I naturally have to discipline Fourth Sister's behavior for the sake of the Three Springs sect, so that outsiders won't laugh at our Three Springs sect. You. The second madam clenched her teeth and was about to step forward and teach Yiqing Luo a lesson. But her wrist was held back by Yiqing Jian. Mother, this may be a misunderstanding, don't hurt the harmony of the family. Misunderstanding? Your sister is lying. The second madam's entire face was distorted as she gritted her teeth and pointed towards the direction of the house. Out of the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of a black robe under her daughter's guidance and all her words were choked in her throat. Chapter 16. Master, look at our Ling, she's hurt like that. How could this be a misunderstanding? Second madam pulled Yi Tianquang's sleeves. Could it be that? Seventh Miss can't accept His Royal Highness breaking off the engagement, so, Yi Tianquang's face was livid, he furrowed his brows and stared at Yiqing Luo in disgust. Evil girl. Whether you accept it or not, His Royal Highness wants to break off the engagement with you, so this engagement must be broken off. Oh. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and revealed a thought-provoking smile. Break off the engagement with me and marry eldest sister, right? Who His Royal Highness wants to marry has nothing to do with you. Yi Tianquang was patient. Bastard. Hurry up and enter the residence. How long do you want to lose face? Seeing more and more people gathered around, Yi Tianquang couldn't use extreme measures to expel them, otherwise it would arouse public anger. His heart was half dead and he was even more disgusted with Yiqing Luo. Listening to Yi Tianquang avoiding the topic, Yiqing Luo smiled sarcastically. So father also knows that. Eldest sister and His Royal Highness have an affair behind my back. The surrounding commoners were originally discussing about Yiqing Luo's annulment of marriage, but when they heard this, all of them shot a strange look towards Yiqing Qian. Break off the engagement with Yiqing Luo and marry Yiqing Qian? Two sisters fighting over a man. Who would have thought that the Yi family's eldest miss who looked gentle and elegant was actually so unrestrained, behind her sister's back and with her sister's fiancé? You're slandering me. I didn't. Yiqing Qian's pretty face turned red, tears filled her watery eyes and she gripped her handkerchief tightly. That look, it really looked like she was wronged. Yiqing Luo raised her brows and dragged out her tone. Oh, you didn't have an affair with His Royal Highness behind my back, so His Royal Highness doesn't intend to marry you? I. Yiqing Qian bit her red lips, looking anxious and didn't know how to explain. Yiqing Luo found it funny and gave a thumbs up, praising Yiqing Qian's acting. If this acting was in modern times, she would definitely win an Oscar. Yiqing Luo. This prince breaking off the engagement with you has nothing to do with Qingqian. Suddenly, a furious shout came from within the mansion. A man dressed in a black luxurious robe walked to Yi Qingqian's side as he wrapped his arm around her shoulder. The man's clothes were embroidered with a flood dragon totem. Only the current crown prince, Ling Fenghua, would dare to wear these clothes. Your Highness. Yi Qingqian held back her tears and called out pitifully. Ling Fenghua stretched out his fingers and gently wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. When he looked at Yi Qingluo again, his eyes shot out a biting cold intent. Yi Qingluo, a lady's most precious thing is her own reputation. Do you think you're still qualified to be my crown princess? The surrounding commoners were in an uproar. The crown prince's words contained a lot of information. So the reason why Yi Qingluo was rejected by the crown prince was not because of marrying the eldest miss of the Yi family. But Yi Qingluo had lost her innocence and was despised by the crown prince. Thinking back to when 4th Miss Yi brought a group of people to Tianfu Inn, well, perhaps what 4th Miss Yi said was actually true. Why don't I have the qualifications? Yi Qingluo smiled like a flower and squinted her long and narrow eyes. Ling Fenghua, you have to pay attention to the evidence when you speak. As the crown prince, you slandered your fiancé in public. Is this your demeanor? From Ling Fenghua's words, Yi Qingluo had already confirmed it. Ling Fenghua was absolutely involved in Yi Qingling's conspiracy. Chapter 17. Evil Creature. You actually dare to directly address His Highness by his name. Yi Tianquang's sword-like eyebrows stood erect. He was so angry that his complexion turned black. If he continued to stand outside the mansion and allow the commoners to watch, he would definitely become the laughingstock of Three Springs City and even the entire Western continent. He suppressed his anger and strode towards Yi Qingluo's direction as he stretched out his hand to grab her. Follow me back to the residence. Yi Qingluo's expression turned cold as a sharp glint flashed across her blood-red pupils. She took a small step back, avoiding Yi Tianquang's hand. Thanks to her eyes, she could now see the other party's profound rank. Yi Tianquang chopped down and Yi Qingluo saw a mass of profound qi gathering in his palm. Otherwise, if this palm had really landed on her shoulder, it would definitely have broken one of her arms. Damn it. How ruthless. Yi Tianquang wasn't Yi Qingling. If they were to meet force with force, she absolutely had no chance of winning. Yi Tianquang's profound rank was at least above the 5th grade of the Earth Profound Realm, maybe even higher. Yi Qingluo wasn't so stupid to do something like striking a rock with an egg. I agree to break off the engagement. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up coldly as she rolled her eyes, but... Yi Qingluo, there's no need to say anything else. This marriage, this highness will definitely break off. Ling Fenghua snorted coldly, his face was filled with disdain. As expected, how could Yi Qingluo possibly agree to break off the engagement so easily? One must know that Yi Qingluo had been infatuated with him for many years and had been pestering him for many years, constantly clamoring to marry him. How could he bear to break off the engagement? But... Ling Fenghua, you better get it straight. It was I, Yi Qingluo, who broke off your engagement. It was I, Yi Qingluo, who didn't want you. Yi Qingluo raised her finger towards Ling Fenghua, her eyes filled with ridicule. A stud horse like you, I don't dare to accept it. Ling Fenghua, you know what? I think you're dirty. In the past, Yi Qingluo must have been blinded by sh*t, hence she was infatuated with this kind of scum for so many years. Isn't a stud afraid of getting sick? The man she was looking for must be the strongest, the one who was worthy of her. He must be a man with a pure body and mind, a man who could spend the rest of his life with her. In his mind, a peerless, devilish face suddenly appeared. Dmo Xian, poo 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 poo. At this moment, why did he think of Dmo Xian? Yi Qingluo shuddered as she tried to get rid of the man who was smiling devilishly at her from her mind. At this time, Ling Fenghua was furious. He clenched his fists, and the flames in his eyes burned with a hissing sound. A piece of trash actually dared to break off his engagement. She didn't want him? Do you think I'm dirty? Oh, I was just wondering why fourth elder sister suddenly slandered and discredited me for no reason. It turns out that it was all because of you. Yiqing Luo sneered as her gaze swept past this group of people. It could be seen that Yi Tianquang didn't want the common people to laugh at him. But today, she was going to turn Three Springs sect into a joke. She wanted to see, after such a ruckus, whether Leng Fenghua and Yiqing Qian, this adulterous couple, would still be able to shamelessly talk about marriage. Leng Fenghua, do you dare to bet with me? Leng Fenghua did not answer. He only stared at her with a cold expression. His face turned green and white. Since big sister insists that I slandered you, you didn't do anything behind my back with Leng Fenghua. Then let's find an experienced old woman to come over. Let's test in front of everyone to see whose virginity mark is fake. As Yiqing Luo spoke, her gaze swept over the red dot on Yiqing Qian's wrist. She didn't believe that Yiqing Qian hadn't rolled the sheets with Leng Fenghua. This bet, Leng Fenghua absolutely didn't dare to bet. Once the virginity mark was found to be fake, didn't it mean that they had really done it behind her back? In the modern era, this kind of cheating behavior was intolerable. Chapter 18. Yiqing Qian's face flushed red, tears rolled down her cheeks. Seventh sister. You're shameless. Even if she really didn't have sex with Leng Fenghua, she didn't dare to test the virginity mark in public. This test, the white lotus image that she had painstakingly built up for several years, would be completely destroyed. Nonsense. Yi Tianquang's face turned green with anger, looking at Yiqing Luo's eyes more and more sinister. Uneducated wild girl, quickly get back to the ancestral hall. Yiqing Luo originally had a sneer on her face. When she heard Yi Tianquang's words, her heart suddenly felt a stabbing pain. She knew that this was the last emotion of the original owner of this body. After that, the dull pain dissipated and her heart turned cold. Yiqing Luo slowly raised her hand and pressed on the place where her heart was. Yiqing Luo, don't worry, from today onwards, I will live for you. When she looked up again, her eyes were already filled with ruthlessness. Her lips, bit by bit, hooked up into a cold arc, sneering, yes, Yiqing Luo, since I was born with a mother, a wild girl without a father to teach me. Of all the things he should not have said, he should not have said. Uneducated? If it wasn't for him spoiling his wife, causing her mother to die of illness in the abandoned courtyard when she was 5 years old, would she have lived so miserably for the past 10 years? What's more, my education is for people, not a group of beasts. Yiqing Luo stared at the row of people in front of her, spitting out each word coldly. That voice, as if from hell, made people's hearts tighten. Seventh sister. You're too rude. Yiqing Qian's eyes were red, a pair of beautiful watery eyes, staring straight at Yiqing Luo. As you said, you are the young matriarch of Three Springs sect, the Yi family's first wife's daughter. Then your every word and action represents the entire Three Springs sect. Today, in front of so many people in Three Springs City, you talk nonsense, offended your superiors. Don't you feel that you're wrong? No wonder she was a pure and flawless white lotus. In just a few words, he had shifted the blame onto Yiqing Luo, and even avoided the topic of testing the virginity mark. If I, as the eldest sister, am not able to let you remember your identity as the young matriarch, then I am not fit to be the eldest miss of the Yi family. Yiqing Qian's face was filled with righteousness as her slender jade-like hands pulled away the big hand that was wrapped around her waist. She raised her head and gently looked at Leng Fenghua. Your Highness, Qian, I will bear all the consequences of Seventh Sister's disrespect towards you today. I hope that your Highness will not blame Seventh Sister for her rudeness. Leng Fenghua was mesmerized by this tender gaze and his heart melted. He couldn't help but hold Yiqing Qian's tender hand. Qian, you're just too kind. Yiqing Qian's cheeks blushed slightly as she pushed his hand away, indicating that there were commoners watching them. Their lovey-dovey looks made Yiqing Luo's stomach churn. Kindness? Which eye of yours saw that she was kind? Yiqing Luo pouted her lips but didn't open her mouth to interrupt their display of affection. Show all they wanted, the more they showed, the more it proved that Yiqing Qian was carrying her sister's back and had an affair with the crown prince. The eyes of the crowd were shining brightly. She wanted to see, after today, whether Yiqing Qian's reputation as a white lotus could continue to be maintained. Yiqing Qian walked out, a pair of beautiful eyes, seemed to be unable to bear, but looked at Yiqing Luo with incomparable determination. Seventh sister, I hope you can understand my good intentions. Just as her voice fell, a strong gust of wind spread out from her feet. Chapter 19. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. If she wanted to teach her a lesson, then so be it. She even put on a, I hit you for your own good, look. Pfft. She really didn't forget her white lotus nature at all times. Yiqing Qian stretched out her palm and a soft whip appeared in her hand. That pair of eyes looking at Yiqing Luo were full of helplessness, as if she was really forced to do something to her sister. Seeing Yiqing Qian make a move, Yi Tianquang took second madam back and gave way. His attitude was very obvious, he didn't want to stop the fight between the two daughters. The onlookers looked on, some shook their heads and sighed. This kind of indifferent patriarch, it seemed that Three Springs Sect's fate had really come to an end. Yiqing Qian stepped on the ground, the soft whip waved in the air with a pa-pa sound. She approached directly, the soft whip came head-on. Yiqing Luo squinted, carefully scrutinizing the light of Yiqing Qian's heart. Brown, the light was very faint, faintly discernible, she should have deliberately suppressed her profound grade. Visual estimation, it was above the mystic profound grade, maybe even higher. Absolutely worthy to be called a profound Qi genius. No wonder Yi Tianquang would pamper Yiqing Qian in the palm of his hand. The soft whip, nearing, Yiqing Luo curled her lips, just as that layer of brown profound Qi lingered around the soft whip, approached her face, her body suddenly became extremely soft, with an extremely strange posture, she turned around and dodged. With another somersault in the air, she had quickly retreated to the crowd of people. The people were afraid that this battle would involve them, one by one, they fled quickly. Yiqing Qian's eyes sharpened, she couldn't believe it, she didn't expect Yiqing Luo to have such a fast speed. She obviously couldn't feel any profound qi from Yiqing Luo's body. How could Yiqing Luo avoid her whip which was infused with profound qi? Immediately, Yiqing Qian flew up, the soft whip rotated into countless circles on her fingertips. Profound qi was released, her palm wind pushed the circle created by the soft whip forward. Yiqing Luo instantly felt a strong pressure, overwhelming the sky and earth. In front of her, she could only see the constantly rotating circle, spinning until her head was dizzy, her eardrums were filled with a chi-chi sound. Damn! Yiqing Qian really had some skills. This was the combination of Xian Qi and hypnosis. Can't look anymore. If she looked any further, she would easily be lost in the hypnosis. Yiqing Luo simply closed her eyes and followed the fluctuation of the profound qi to confirm the position of the whip. His ears suddenly twitched. Felt it. The direction of the profound qi was coming from the left. Yiqing Luo abruptly opened her eyes and in a blink of an eye, her body avoided the soft whip perfectly. Chapter 20. What made Yiqing Luo notice him wasn't his handsome looks, but that pair of eyes which were filled with introverted brilliance. As deep as ink, no one could see through his emotions at first glance. Yiqing Luo quickly moved closer to him and the people on both sides could not wait to avoid her. The man was the only one who stood still and waved his folding fan leisurely. Yiqing Luo moved closer to him and snatched the folding fan from his hand. "Master, let me borrow it." That folding fan felt good to the touch. Yiqing Luo played with it on her fingertips and felt that it was rather smooth. Good. Seventh sister, how can you live up to your young matriarch status? Since you are so disobedient, don't blame me for being merciless. Yiqing Qian's beautiful face showed a slight twist. If Yiqing Luo was able to avoid the first whip, it was probably due to luck. Then the second whip. It was absolutely impossible to avoid it based on luck. Her psychedelic whip had never failed before. No one had ever escaped from the illusion that she created. When did this little slut become so powerful? Looking at Yiqing Luo's pair of bloodthirsty eyes, Yiqing Qian's back suddenly turned cold and a few drops of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. Her heart was filled with fear. The one who made her afraid was actually Yiqing Luo. The always arrogant Yiqing Qian could not admit that she had developed a sense of fear towards a waste. Profound chi shook in the long whip and her hand ruthlessly pressed down. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Eldest sister still knows that I am the young matriarch? Yiqing Luo sneered and did not evade this time. Her fingertips moved the folding fan and faced the attack head-on. Her footwork was extremely strange and she could accurately calculate the arc of Yiqing Qian's whip, as well as the position of the whip, cleverly avoiding the attack of the whip. Everyone could only see a red silhouette, like a magnificent sunset, flashing by. In the blink of an eye, the feather fan in Yiqing Luo's hand opened and closed and directly wrapped around the whip in Yiqing Qian's hand. The whip was stretched taut between the two. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian's eyes widened in disbelief as she exerted strength in her wrist, trying to withdraw the whip. But no matter how much strength she used, there was no way to withdraw the whip. How was this possible? Big sister, don't be anxious. The show has just begun. Following that, Yiqing Luo's slender hand danced, the folding fan in her hand seemed to have its own consciousness. She let go of the handle of the fan, and the folding fan automatically spun like a fan. It spun quickly and completely wrapped the soft whip around the handle of the fan. A 2-meter-long whip was curled up in a split second, leaving only half of it. The folding fan continued to spin and when it wrapped around Yiqing Qian's long whip, a strong force forced Yiqing Qian to let go of the whip. The soft whip escaped from Yiqing Qian's hand and when Yiqing Luo opened her palm, the folding fan automatically returned to her palm. Big sister's weapon is really not bad, it's even at the supreme grade. Yiqing Luo's fingertips caressed the soft whip wrapped around the folding fan, a purple ray of light flashed. Supreme being? The people's eyes lit up as they stared unblinkingly at the whip. Even if he couldn't use a supreme weapon, he could still feast his eyes on it. Seventh sister. Yiqing Qian's heart suddenly palpitated in fear as her voice trembled. She hadn't finished her words when she saw a black shadow coming down from the front. Ah! A sharp scream came out from Yiqing Qian's mouth. Chapter 21. Yiqing Qian's miserable howl made everyone's expression change. Yiqing Luo's temperament was too hard to figure out. She waved the whip at the slightest disagreement. Damn, that whip was really ruthless. It directly hit Yiqing Qian's face, the skin was torn and the flesh was torn. The onlookers trembled and subconsciously touched their faces. What women cared about the most was their appearance. Especially Yiqing Qian, known as the #1 beauty, she cared about her beauty even more. Yiqing Luo's whip simply took Yiqing Qian's life. Ah, my face. My face. Yiqing Qian screamed incessantly, she felt a burning pain on her face and her hands were full of blood. On her face, from her forehead to her mouth, there was a very conspicuous whip mark. The hand covering the wound was dripping with blood, it looked extremely terrifying. Qian, Yiqing Luo, you little slut, how dare you hit my daughter? Men, capture her for me. Catch this little slut. When second madam saw her daughter's proud appearance destroyed by Yiqing Luo, she couldn't stay calm. She pounced forward, trying to snatch the whip from Yiqing Luo's hand. But Yiqing Luo whipped her back, rolled her up and flung her away. Second madam's body was like a kite with a broken string, falling heavily to the ground. She spat out a mouthful of blood. The commoners gasped one by one, it was an extremely bloody scene, many timid people didn't even dare to look. Amazing. Really too amazing. Her attack was fierce and ruthless, not giving the opponent any chance to counterattack. Who dared to say that the Yi family's young matriarch was a waste? Who said they were in a hurry? She was called a waste? Then wouldn't Yi Qingqian, who was called a genius, be the waste of the waste? At this moment, Yi Qingluo's reputation as a waste was completely rewritten. Evil girl! Stop! Yi Tianquang shouted fiercely, and a swift and fierce palm aura directly chopped over. Yi Qingluo's reaction was fast. She gave up on whipping Yi Qingqian, withdrew the whip and hurriedly retreated a few steps. The palm chi brushed past her shoulder, and with a boom, a huge black hole exploded behind her. Yi Qingluo's arm felt sore and numb as a sharp pain shot down from her shoulder. She steadied her footsteps and endured the pain from her arm. Her eyes were as cold as a sharp blade as she ruthlessly sliced at Yi Tianquang. Taking advantage of this gap, the second madam immediately called for her attendants to carry her daughter to the side. Consecutively, 2 daughters had fallen into Yi Qingluo's evil hands. Second madam was also injured, so she hated and feared Yi Qingluo. Yi Tianquang's cold and gloomy gaze swept over Yi Qingqian's ruined appearance. It was so horrifying, so terrifying, and he immediately flared up. Evil girl! Are you done messing around? You're simply audacious and presumptuous. A wisp of profound energy rose from his palms, and a strange light was faintly discernible. Yi Tianquang's eyes were filled with killing intent, his palms fiercely pushed towards Yi Qingluo's direction. Wait! Suddenly, when that palm wind blended into the air and formed an enormous black palm print, a dazzling green light blossomed and froze that palm chi in midair. As the green light became increasingly radiant, that palm chi and the green light fused, and with a boom, it exploded. A gale suddenly arose, and crushed stones were everywhere. Yi Qingluo was also forced to retreat a few steps by this gale. The gale dispersed, and a black silhouette was revealed. He slowly lowered his hand that was raised high, and that pair of meaningful eyes deeply stared at Yi Qingluo. Chapter 22. It turned out to be Leng Fenghua. Why would he take the hit for Yi Qingluo? Yi Tianquang immediately withdrew his profound qi and retreated to Leng Fenghua's side. He couldn't guess the crown prince's thoughts and didn't dare to act rashly. Forget it, let's forget about the engagement. Leng Fenghua waved his hand, his eyebrows revealed a sense of arrogance. 7th Miss is so ruthless for me, I feel very distressed. He slowly walked towards Yi Qingluo, wearing a black robe with golden edges, with a warm smile on his face. 7th Miss, I can feel your infatuation for me. This engagement, I will not break it off. Yi Qingluo looked at him walking over, as if avoiding the plague, extremely disgusted. Damn, how could he be so disgusting? Where did he get his confidence from? Where did his sense of superiority come from? Ruthless for him? And infatuated with him? Which eye of his saw her infatuation? Yi Qingluo's heart almost collapsed, shaking off the goosebumps all over her body. Do you not understand human language? It's not you who wants to break off the engagement, it's me, Yi Qingluo, who wants to break off the engagement. Leng Fenghua stretched out his hand to hold Yi Qingluo's hand was avoided, awkwardly paused in midair. He didn't get angry but instead laughed, withdrawing his hand with a smile on his face. I know you are throwing a tantrum, no matter, since you want me to coax you, then I will coax you. Damn! Did he not understand human language? Yi Qingluo's mouth twitched, she felt that talking to Leng Fenghua was simply playing the lute to a cow. That guy was completely living in his own world. Just as she was about to open her mouth to ridicule, she heard Yi Qingqian, who was covering her face and sobbing softly, said, Your Highness. Your Highness. Yi Qingqian panicked. Under the blurred blood, Yi Qingqian saw that side of Leng Fenghua's face. The smile at the corner of his mouth, the glint in his eyes that said he wanted to use her for himself, this kind of look, had appeared on him before. Your Highness. Yi Qingqian bit her red lips, she couldn't believe that His Highness would be interested in that waist. Obviously, His Highness hated that waist, didn't he? However, The man who had pledged his undying love to her at the bedside last night didn't even look at her. Daughter, it's all right, let's go back to apply the medicine first. Mother will definitely cure your face. Second Madam cried as she hugged Yi Qingqian tightly and brought her into the residence. How would Yi Qingqian be willing to leave? The minute she left, Ling Fenghua would be together with Yi Qingluo. She had spent so much effort, and even offered her innocence, just to tie Ling Fenghua up. How could he be willing to let go? The position of the crown prince's consort could only be hers. Yi Qingluo took in all of Yi Qingqian's emotions. A playful and sly smile appeared on his face. Ling Fenghua, do you really want to coax me? Of course. Tell me, how do you want this prince to coax you? Even if you want the stars in the sky, this prince will also send people to pluck them for you. Ling Fenghua had an expression of, as expected, on his face. Look, women will always be women. What they want is nothing more than a man's submissive and sweet words. Yi Qingluo's smile deepened as her eyes curved. She threw the long whip in her hand in the direction of Ling Fenghua. Pa! The long whip fell at the feet of Ling Fenghua. I want you to destroy this whip for me. Yi Qingluo raised her eyebrows and smiled teasingly. Ling Fenghua was stunned. Not only him, the surrounding people were also stunned. That was a supreme-level weapon. It was considered good to be able to find 3 supreme-grade weapons in the entire Three Springs city. Destroy it just like that? Chapter 23. Yi Qingluo, you dare? That was a birthday gift from my father. Yi Qingjian angrily pointed at Yi Qingluo. Her whole body was trembling, the wound on her face was in severe pain. Back then, Yi Tianquang had expended a lot of manpower, wealth, and material resources for this whip. How dare Yi Qingluo, how dare she? Yi Qingluo turned a deaf ear, crossed her arms over her chest and looked at Ling Fenghua with a faint smile. Why, is this the way Crown Prince coaxes a woman? Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes and pondered. Even as the Crown Prince, he did not have a supreme being weapon. He really couldn't bear to destroy it just like that. 7th young lady, this is a good weapon. This prince sees that 7th young lady's whip technique is quite good. Why don't you keep it for my own use? Ling Fenghua discussed. Yi Qingluo's lips curled up coldly, her eyes filled with disdain. This young matriarch has no interest in other people's use things. After saying that pair of charming eyes swept up and down Ling Fenghua, hinting at something. However, Ling Fenghua did not know. It wasn't impossible to destroy the supreme-level whip. If he could coax Yi Qingluo to calm down and let her become his fiancée once again, it would be a worthwhile deal. He had heard that Yi Qingluo was a person who possessed an extremely strong profound jade heart. A waste suddenly changed so much. As an Earth Profound 6th grade, he was actually unable to detect the slightest fluctuation of profound qi on Yi Qingluo's body. This was absolutely because her profound jade heart had awakened. Ling Fenghua's eyes glimmered as he made his decision. All right. In order to make 7th young Miss happy, this prince will listen to you today. With a flick of his sleeve, a powerful profound energy was released from his body. He raised his palm high and slashed at the whip on the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, a huge hole was blasted open in the ground. The heat wave rolled up the rubble and dust on the ground. Gasps could be heard from all around. The people were shocked by Ling Fenghua's power. Just now, the Crown Princess Xian Qi was able to block the Three Springs Sect's Lord's palm. The sect master of the Three Springs sect was the faith of the West Continent. The Crown Prince was even more powerful than the Lord of the Three Springs sect. The commoners craned their necks to look at the ground that had been blasted open. In the pitch-black pit that looked like it had been struck by lightning, the supreme martial artist level whip was broken into 3 pieces. A purple light faintly flashed. This was the spiritual energy of a supreme weapon. Suddenly, an old voice sounded in her mind, "Lass. Quickly put away that purple spiritual energy, it's good for you." Yiqing Luo was shocked. She shook her head, only then did she remember that the old man nestled in the azure dew bracelet had already merged with her soul, and could communicate spiritually with her at any time, anywhere. Old man sung, "What should I do?" Use the phoenix ring to absorb the purple spiritual qi. You must be fast, the purple spiritual energy will disappear immediately. Old man Sung briefly explained the steps. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and looked at the red ring on her fingertip. Touching it, he followed Old Man Sung's instructions and aimed it at the purple spiritual energy. The purple light shot into the profound phoenix ring like a bolt of lightning. The light of the long whip dimmed in an instant. My whip. My whip. Yiqing Qian watched her own long whip turn into a dead object as she screamed out in a heart-wrenching manner. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows, her lips hooked up into a sweet smile, bent down, picked up the 3 pieces of the whip, and casually threw it to Yiqing Qian. Here, big sister, your whip, I'm returning it to you. The 3 pieces of the whip hit Yiqing Qian's body. She was so angry that her eyes turned red, her throat was sweet, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Although she had narrowly avoided Yi Tianquang's palm strike, she had still been injured by the profound energy. Since then, his arm had already been broken, and he was in excruciating pain. He had been holding it in, until now. Yiqing Luo fiercely wiped off the blood stains on the corner of her mouth, as she leaned against that creaking door, as she panted heavily. In order to survive in this strange world, she must make use of the profound jade heart that Dmo Xian had created for her as soon as possible to cultivate profound qi. Only strength was the real capital to survive. She, Yiqing Luo, didn't have any good points, but she liked to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Today's injury, she would definitely return it 100-fold in the future. Miss, what happened to you? The sound of an iron basin falling on the ground was accompanied by the sound of stumbling footsteps. He saw a little girl, wearing a coarse cloth gown full of patches, limping over. Chapter 25. Ling was limping and panicking. She was in a hurry to help Yiqing Luo and stumbled over the threshold. She reached out and desperately tried to help Yiqing Luo up. Her clear eyes were full of worry. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. The more Ling shook her, the more her injured hand hurt. She panted heavily and endured the pain. Don't worry about me, I'll just sit down. Ling felt the blood oozing from Yiqing Luo's shoulder and knelt on the ground in panic. Miss, did 4th Miss bully you again? Ling was horrified to see her hand full of blood. No wonder the young Miss's face was so pale and weak. 4th Miss and the others are too much. Will go and tell the patriarch about their crimes. Ling's little face was red with anger. She got up from the ground and was about to leave. Come back. Yiqing Luo shouted coldly. Ling suddenly stopped in her tracks. She was frightened by Yiqing Luo's scolding. She had never heard her young miss speak in such a cold voice. Ling turned around and was shocked to find that Yiqing Luo's expression was not as timid as before. Yiqing Luo's pair of charming eyes were glowing with a seductive light, making people unable to move their eyes away. Miss, for a moment, Ling felt that her miss was like a snow lotus blooming alone on a snowy mountain. That kind of temperament was extraordinary and enchanting. No need to go, boil a basin of hot water for me, and prepare a pair of scissors and a few clean cloths. Miss, don't bear it any more. Ling looked at Yiqing Luo with distress, her little fist clenched tightly. You are the Yi family's daughter, the young matriarch of 3 Springs sect. How can you let other misses bully you? Yiqing Luo slowly held onto her injured shoulder as she gave a self-deprecating sneer. This injury of mine is caused by that so-called sovereign. Ling's eyes widened in disbelief. Yi family's daughter, 3 Springs sect's young matriarch. These belong to me, I will take them back little by little. Yiqing Luo's smile gradually became cold, a pair of charming eyes flashed with a murderous chill, making people shudder. Ziling's breath stagnated, and her hair stood on end. Ling, will prepare hot water and scissors for Miss. As she spoke, she picked up the overturned iron basin on the ground and limped towards the kitchen. Yiqing Luo regained some strength and climbed onto the bed. Ziling boiled some water and brought over a pair of scissors and a clean cloth. With Ziling's help, Yiqing Luo unbuttoned her shirt, revealing half of her shoulder. He saw a hideous wound extending from his shoulder to his arm, and fresh blood gushed out. Ziling screamed in fright, her hands shaking. Looking at that terrifying wound on her shoulder, Yiqing Luo's gaze turned chilly. Yi Tianquang was truly determined to take her life. Since he hated her so much, why hadn't he promoted second Furen to first Furen after so many years of her mother's death? Not only did she retain her identity as the daughter of the first wife, but she also retained her identity as the successor of the Three Springs sect. How strange. Yiqing Luo withdrew all her thoughts. Scissors. Ziling handed over the red-hot scissors in a daze. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as she endured the pain and nimbly dealt with her wound. After the wound was bandaged, Yiqing Luo lay on the bed, covered in cold sweat. "Miss, would you like some porridge?" Ziling picked up a black thing and brought it to Yiqing Luo's lips. A strange smell was extremely pungent. Yiqing Luo frowned. "What is this?" Chapter 26. It's not the rice. Yiqing Luo propped herself up and took the bowl of porridge. She poked her finger into the rice porridge. She dipped a little and put it under her nose. "Miss, this porridge." Yiqing Luo's eyes were suddenly filled with an eerie chill. She handed the bowl back to Ziling, took out a piece of cloth and wiped her fingers. "Whoever gave the rice, this bowl of porridge will be given to them." Ziling's hand trembled as she held the bowl. "Miss, you mean, someone?" She didn't even dare to continue thinking about it. Her little face turned pale and she knelt on the ground. "It's Ling Er's fault." Ling Er didn't even notice that the porridge was poisoned. "If you really think you're wrong, then do as I say." Yiqing Luo lazily narrowed her eyes. But Ling Er. Ziling bit her lower lip. "Ling doesn't dare." The person who gave her the rice was Aunt Zhang from the kitchen. Aunt Zhang was from the second household, relying on the second madam's favor. She was regarded as the head of the maids in the residence. With a wave of her arm, many maids and attendants responded. How could she feed this bowl of poisoned porridge to Aunt Zhang? "I don't need useless people by my side." Yiqing Luo lazily lifted her eyelids, the corner of her mouth hooked up in a mocking arc. "If you can't even do such a simple thing, you can leave." Ziling trembled and wanted to open her mouth to plead. But when she met Yiqing Luo's eyes, all the words were stuck in her throat, unable to spit out. She trembled and lowered her head, her scalp was numb, and squeezed out a word from between her teeth. "Yes." Ziling held the porridge in her hand and turned to leave the room. Just at the door, Yiqing Luo suddenly said, "Ziling, don't think I'm cruel. Since she has the guts to poison me, she has to bear the consequences. If she doesn't die, sooner or later, the one who dies will be me." Ziling's back stiffened. After a long while, she turned around. Her eyes were full of tears, and her voice was firm. "Miss, don't worry. I will definitely complete the task." After that, she ran out of the room. Yiqing Luo retracted her vision as a sliver of exhaustion surfaced between her brows. "Old man Sung, is there any way for me to cultivate profound energy right away?" She closed her eyes and connected her spiritual sense to the azure dew bracelet. Old man Sung said unhurriedly, "It's not that there isn't a way, but it's a bit troublesome." "Speak." Right now, she had an incomparable thirst for power. As long as there was a way, it wouldn't matter even if it was a little troublesome. "This body of yours is very strange." Old man Sung furrowed his brows. "Your meridians seem to have been sealed by some kind of power, causing your meridians to be blocked. You're unable to cultivate profound energy." "Sealed?" This old man is also unable to detect the source of that power. If you want to cultivate profound qi, you can only refine a high-grade marrow cleansing pill to change your physique. On this point, Old Man Sung also couldn't give an answer. High-grade marrow cleansing pill? Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. It's easy for you to say, you're so powerful, why don't you do it? What a joke. In his memory, only a Grandmaster apothecary could refine a high-grade marrow cleansing pill, and the success rate was less than 50%. Apothecary, there were 8 levels. The most common ones were medicine slave, medicine apprentice, medicine master, and Grandmaster apothecary. After that, there were medicine grandmasters and even medicine sovereigns. Looking at the entire Nirvana continent, there were probably less than 10. Not to mention the mythical level of medicine immortals and medicine deities. She had never come into contact with alchemy, she couldn't even be considered a medicine slave. How could she refine a high-grade marrow cleansing pill? Chapter 27. Since I asked you to refine a top-grade marrow cleansing pill, I naturally have full confidence. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. Really? You have a way to quickly promote me to a Grandmaster? Old Man Sung snorted and proudly raised his eyebrows. Lass, you just have to remember, follow me and you will have meat to eat. As he spoke, a white light emitted from Old Man Sung's hand, and a green-shelled paper book floated above his palm. Old Man Sung moved his fingers and the paper book flew towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo reached out and caught it. There were 4 big words printed on the paper book: 100 medicines pill. What the hell? Yiqing Luo held the paper book, the corner of her mouth twitched. Don't tell me you want me to follow this secret manual. To learn alchemy? In her memory, alchemist was the most difficult of all the secondary professions. Because alchemists not only required a strong profound jade heart and mental strength, but also extremely good luck. The success rate of alchemy was simply too low. Moreover, the amount of medicinal ingredients needed was too large. In the Nirvana continent, the price of ordinary medicinal ingredients was usually more than 10 silver coins. Without a strong character and a wealthy backer, it was impossible for an ordinary person to practice alchemy to a high level. Yiqing Luo's heart turned cold. If she started to practice alchemy now, she would probably need 1.5 years to reach the level of a Grandmaster. How could she wait for such a long time? Others might need 1.5 years, but you don't. Old Man Sung seemed to see through Yiqing Luo's thoughts. He stroked his beard and his eyes under his white eyebrows swept over Yiqing Luo. Although your profound jade heart is not as strong as before, but this body has been nourished by the super strong profound jade heart for more than 10 years. Your mental strength is also 100 times stronger than ordinary people. Most importantly, you have the profound phoenix ring on you. The alchemy equipment and medicinal ingredients inside are enough for you to rush to the level of a Grandmaster. Profound phoenix ring? Yiqing Luo raised her hand and her gaze fell on the ring on her finger. What on earth is this? It could help her rush to the level of a Grandmaster? So awesome. This is a spatial ring. Old Man Sung's expression was one of recklessness. The profound phoenix ring is a supreme grade accessory. It can store tens of thousands of items. Most importantly, the profound phoenix ring can also store spiritual energy. Yiqing Luo recalled that not long ago, she had followed Old Man Sung's method and absorbed the purple spirit chi from Yiqing Qian's supreme grade long whip. She nodded and said, "It's really a good thing." No wonder when Dmo Xian put the ring on her finger, that guardian Afeng had such a strange expression. It was a supreme being grade ring that could even store spiritual energy. Since Dmo Xian had already been delivered into her hands, then he could forget about getting it back. All right. Yiqing Luo placed the book into the profound phoenix ring. Let me try first. Right now, she could only brace herself and work hard. This was the only path she could take. Imperial Palace Sub-Palace. In the main hall sat a noble man dressed in luxurious purple robes. He leaned against the soft chair in an extremely lazy manner. His long, narrow, and charming black eyes were gleaming with light. That face could be called a peerless beauty. Just a glance was enough to steal one's soul. how is it?" The man's voice was deep and magnetic. Listening to it, it was like a feather was tickling one's heart. In the main hall, a young man dressed in black knelt on the ground, just as the overlord expected. That seventh Miss Yi is not easy to deal with. He told the man in detail about Yi Qing Luo's actions today. Hearing this, the man's long curly eyelashes trembled slightly and a faint smile flashed across his face. In his mind, Yi Qing Luo's cold little face appeared. The smile on his face deepened. His slender fingers lightly clasped on the chair. After a while, the man laughed softly. "Ah Feng, continue to follow her. I want to know every move she makes." Chapter 28. Yi Qing Luo withdrew her divine sense from the profound phoenix ring. At this moment, she fully understood why Old Man Song was so sure that with the profound phoenix ring and her innate talent, she would be able to rush to become a grandmaster apothecary in a short time. No wonder it was a supreme-grade interspatial ring. The profound phoenix ring was neatly categorized according to the categories. The medicinal material area had its own medicinal material area. The weapons area had its own weapons area. The accessories area had its own accessories area. All in all, it had everything. Furthermore, every single item was definitely not an ordinary item. Yi Qing Luo sighed in her heart. How rich was Dmo Xian to be able to collect so many precious items. And he was so rich that he gave it to her just like that. With these items, it was only a matter of time before she unlocked the seal on her meridians. After a day of torment, her soul was also merging with this body. Yi Qing Luo was already exhausted. She avoided her injured arm, turned over and closed her eyes. When he flipped over, his arm moved along with him, as if he had touched something. It was hard and burned. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly and opened her eyes. Yi Qing Luo used her hand to feel the burned area. There was a bulge under the thin bedding. What was it? Yi Qing Luo's expression froze as she propped herself up and lifted the bedding. This bed looked shabby, but the material was really good. After the bedding was lifted, the wooden board was incomparably smooth. Only on the pillow, there was a bulge mark. Yi Qing Luo used her hand to dig for a while and the bulge was lifted. It was a small secret compartment that could allow one hand to reach in. The secret compartment was pitch black and she couldn't see what was in it. Yi Qing Luo casually pulled out a wooden hairpin from her head and poked it in the secret compartment. It hit something and made a crisp sound. She reached out her hand and took out a square red brocade box. What is this? Yi Qing Luo frowned in confusion. There was such a thing hidden in this abandoned courtyard? Could it be, Mother hid it? Yi Qing Luo wiped off the dust on the brocade box and her fingertips brushed over the small lock on the box. Her fingers flicked the lock and the sound was very crisp. How could a small lock stop her? Yi Qing Luo got off the bed and tried not to move her right arm as she walked towards the dressing table. The dressing table was extremely simple and crude, with only wooden hairpins and some small handmade ornaments. Yi Qing Luo searched for a while and found it. A thin and long silver needle was the most convenient for opening those small and exquisite locks. Without much effort, Yi Qing Luo easily opened the brocade box. There were 2 envelopes in the brocade box. On the envelope, there were a few words written in beautiful handwriting, "For my child." It was a letter from his mother. This secret compartment was indeed made by Nyangqin. Why did Nyangqin hide 2 letters here? Yi Qing Luo's mind was filled with questions. Yi Qing Luo took out the 2 letters and was about to open them when her fingers suddenly stiffened. His sensitive ears twitched. He heard footsteps outside the door. Yi Qing Luo swiftly stuffed the letter into the brocade box and placed it into the profound phoenix ring. Before she could lie down on the bed, the door to her room was kicked open. Not dead yet? The newcomer was a young man dressed in a green robe. There was a jade pendant around his waist. The material wasn't too good, but it was definitely not bad either. The young man's facial features were delicate and elegant, with a bit of scholarly air. That childish handsome face was full of deliberately disguised disgust. Seeing the young man's face, Yiqing Luo's vigilant expression eased slightly. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.